Hello everyone, it's me, VYW over here, and welcome to a new episode of Tech with VYW. And today we're gonna answer the age-old question: does age actually matter in tech? Now we've got my old Asus laptop of 9 years old, and also we got my main PC, which is 4 years old, built in 2022. So what are the specifications of this PC that I use to stream CS2 on my main YouTube channel every night? Anyways, this one is got an Intel i7-12700F with an RTX 3060 12GB from Asus. And also, it's got DDR4 memory of 48GB of Kingston RAM. For storage, we got 9.5TB of various storage systems inside this computer. For screens, as you can see over here, the left side we got a Samsung screen, a default Samsung screen, and we got here the main one, it's a 280Hz Asus screen, and on the right side we've got an Acer screen which goes up to 144Hz. For the keyboard on this computer I'm using is the Keychron keyboard, and it's the Keychron V6. Now this layout is the Thai keyboard layout because my girlfriend has bought me this keyboard when I was in Thailand. Anyways, there's also many different versions of the same keyboard, but this is the one I'm using, is the full-on sized one. There's also many other sizes, like the medium size, like the full cut-on size, and many others. Now it's time for the benchmarks, and we're going to test the Asus laptop first. Here, we're testing Firestrike on 3D Mark. Alright guys, so here is the data of the test in 3D Mark. So the graphics score is 7,496, basically 7,500. And the physics score is about 8,261. And the combined score is 2,652. And of course the Firestrike score is in good. It's 6,413. And for the graphics, it's testing two graphics. As you can see here, number one is Intel HD Graphics 630, which is the integrated graphics. And as you can see here, the Nvidia GTX 1050 Ti is the dedicated graphics card on this computer. So for the average, we got 6,413, which is very good. Now, as you may know, this computer is about 9 years old and getting there to 10 years old in a year. So for this score being 6,430 is quite good. So guys, here is the FPS of the test we have done. So for number one, the graphics score was 7,496, as you can see here. Now, of course, the graphics test number one had an average FPS of 34.86 FPS, and graphics number two had an average of 30.61 FPS. Now, for the physical score and the physics test, it was 8,631 for the score, and the physics test FPS, of course, 26 average FPS. And of course, combined, it was 2,652, and the average combined test FPS was 12 FPS. Of course, this is just a test, and the FPS of combinedly ain't that great, of course, being 12 FPS. I just got this issue with my computer. I don't know why it did that, but when I was in the middle of filming something, yeah, this happens. Starting off the game bencher, we have CS2. Given this is the latest release of one of the most popular game series out there. Here, you're in the game at low settings with a 1080p resolution and VSync turned off. Here, we're able to generate quite a good performance on this old computer. This resulted in average FPS of 94, 1% low of 44 FPS, and a 0.1% low of 39 FPS. Moving to Borderlands 3, and given that the Borderlands series is one of the most popular game series out there, this game should run just about well on this computer. If some of you are wondering about Borderlands 4, it is actually impossible to run it on this computer due to the high graphical requirements. Anyway, we're running Borderlands 3 at low settings with 1080p resolution and VSync turned off. Here, we're able to generate quite a mediocre performance on the old computer. This resulted in an average FPS of 74 FPS, 1% low FPS of 23 FPS, and a 0.1 low of 11 FPS. The only times when the computer way lag over here are when there are too many enemies at once or the fighting gets too intense, or else the game runs just fine. Now let's test a game that was made in the era the laptop was released. Here is Battlefield 1, and it was released in the later part of 2016 and the laptop released in 2017. The game should actually run quite well over here. This resulted in an average FPS of 60 FPS, and in fact it automatically kept the FPS at 60 FPS. For the 1% lows here, we got an average of 35 FPS, and for the 0.1% lows here, we got an average of 17 FPS. Mind you here, the laptop only lagged when there was too many armored trucks at the same time. I think it was about 3. Now it's time for a lighter game, and here we're testing on to Operator. It is mostly a 2D game and somewhat 3D if you zoom in on the map to see some buildings. Anyway, for the FPS, we got an average of 59 FPS. For the 1% low on average, we got 22 FPS. And the 0.1% average of 11 FPS. The stutter happens when you either try to move the map too quickly by using mouse and keys at the same time. Also, another thing that causes stutter is when you are in a call. It would at times lag when you pick up the call or locations being given to you when in a call. Now mind you here that this is not happening all the time, and it just happens sometimes. Overall, the game on this computer is playable and runs really well. As you can see over here, I got 3 game CDs, Richard Burns Rally, Hearts of Iron, and Need for Speed Carbon. Why do I have these? Well, this is the last gaming laptop with a built-in CD drive, and it was made in 2017. And as you can see, here is the CD drive. If you want more in depth, I'll make it in another video, solely based on retro gaming on the Asus laptop. Now it is time to test the PC, and here we're running Firestrike on 3D Mark. This is the test results of Firestrike in 3D Mark. So as you can see over here, it's 20,692. It means good, and it was using my Nvidia GeForce RTX 3060, which has 12 GB of VRAM. Also, the average score is 20,671, and on the laptop Asus it was 6,413, the average score, which is very good. Anyways, the best score ever on this one was 22,769. The graphics score here was 21,712, and on the Asus laptop it was 7,495, which is a lot lower. Now, for the physics score here, it was 34,914. And on the Asus, it was 8,261, which is a lot lower again. If you may know that the Asus has a GTX 1050 Ti, while this custom gaming PC has RTX 3060. So the combined score, as you can see over here, it is 10,541. And the Asus, it was 2,652, which is a lot lower. This is the FPS data of the scores. So, graphics score, we got 21,712, and graphic test 1, we got 104.32 FPS, and graphic test 2, we got 86.21 FPS here. And on the Asus laptop, we got 1050 Ti, so it is way lower, about 30 FPS to 32 FPS. Now, over here, we got a 3060, 12 GB of VRAM, and on the Asus, it's only 4 GB of VRAM. So, over here, we got a physics score of 34,914 and a physics test of 110.84 FPS. And now we got a combined score of 10,541 and a combined test of 49.03 FPS. And on here, the Asus is a lot worse than the Asus RTX 3060 that's running on this computer here. Now it is time for some game tests on the custom PC from 2022. Here we're starting with CS2. As I mentioned before, it is the latest release of one of the most popular game series in the world. Here we are running the game at high settings on 1080p resolution. We're gonna average FPS of 302 FPS. For the 1% low, we're gonna average of 108 FPS. For the 0.1% low, we're gonna average of 109 FPS. As we can see here, it is running the game CS2 way better than the Asus gaming laptop ever did. The laptop had an average FPS of 94 FPS, while its 1% lows and 0.1% lows were, let's say, half of what they were on the PC. Mind you, here there is about 5 years difference from the Asus gaming laptop to the PC, so that's why there's a lot of difference. Now it's time for another popular game that came out, and it is Borderlands 3. As mentioned before, this game is from one of the most famous series in the world. Here we're testing the game on ultra settings with 1080p resolution. Anyways, for the FPS, we're gonna average FPS 103. For the 1% low, we're gonna average FPS of 46. And for the 0.1% low, we're gonna average of 20 FPS. The stutter only happens because we are testing on ultra 1080p. It didn't cause any issues when testing on these settings. The 1% low and the 0.1% low are really rare. And it only happens due to lag a bit at the start where it was starting the benchmarks. Anyways, the game ran really good on the PC. The difference between the Asus laptop and the PC was that the PC has about 40 more FPS on average and 2 times more on the 1% low FPS. In the end, if you are using the same exact settings as we did on the Asus laptop on the PC, it will beat the Asus laptop by far and maybe even get 300 FPS on average. Now it is time to test Battlefield 1, the game which was released in the era of the Asus gaming laptop. Here where we're testing the game on high settings and 1080p resolution. We still had the FPS cap on, and I don't know why it is set to turn on by default. So for the FPS data, we had an average FPS of 60 FPS. The 1% low FPS on average we got was 51 FPS, and the 0.1% low average was 40 FPS. Mind you here, if there wasn't the default FPS cap in place, the PC would have done way better. So compare it with the Asus laptop, if the PC was uncapped, even on high 1080p resolution, it will do way better than the Asus laptop. Anyway, on both computers, the game was really playable here, and there isn't much to complain about, the game ran just fine. Now it is time to test 112 Operator, a popular sequel to the game 119 Operator. Here we tested the game on the highest settings on 1080p resolution. For the FPS, we got an average of 119 FPS, the 1% low on average was 56 FPS, and the 0.1% low on average was 14 FPS. Mind you here, we're testing on the best graphical settings possible in the game, and I didn't feel any lag at all. If it was the same settings on the Asus laptop, the PC would even reach 200 FPS. In the end, the game on both computers are really playable. The lag in the game was negligible, and the game felt really good. In conclusion, did the 9-year-old Asus laptop compete well against the 2022 custom PC? In my opinion, yes. It played the games we tested today quite well, even though at times it seemed worse in performance. If you have the Asus laptop or a similar spec laptop, in my opinion, you don't really need to upgrade it if you were looking to. Only upgrade the laptop if the games that you love playing stop working. If you were worried about Windows 11 support, well, there's always Windows 11 IoT that this will work on. Or you can always download Linux, and back in the day, I always tested Ubuntu Linux, and it did work quite well.